Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing my favorite subject, which is my book wrap-up for last month and what I plan to read next month. Just like last month's one, which I will link below and up here somewhere, you'll need to get yourself some type of a drink, a snack, a large meal, because I have a lot of books to talk about because I read quite a bit. And then I'm going to talk about my to-be-reads for the month of June. So what I read in May, my opinions, and no spoilers. I don't give any spoilers as much as I can. And then what I'm going to read in June. So let me just hop into it because there's a lot. Okay, so the first book that I read in the month of May was The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. This one I gave a 4 out of 5. So this one, it really like hooked me. I stayed up really late reading it, and I don't have too many books that I'm like, I need to know what happens. I can usually like wait until the next day like a civilized individual, but this one I was like hooked, and it was a very typical storyline. Like it's your typical, and this isn't like really a spoiler, it's kind of one of those things like, do you really know your husband? So that part of the storyline was really typical, but the way the writing was done, I felt like it was done in like a unique twist, so it kept me suspenseful the entire time. My only beef with this book, and probably the only reason why it wasn't a full 5, is because the ending left something to be desired. I don't know if it was like intended to be open-ended so you can, you know, make your own assumptions about what happens, or what, but I'm like one of those, like, if it's not going to be a series, just wrap it up for me, you know what I'm saying? Okay, the next one was another thriller, and it was The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth, and this one I gave a 4 out of 5. This one, I was literally racing to finish the book. I knew what was going to happen, but I liked the character so much, like the main character, that I just like was so invested. And it was just overall a good thriller. It was like creepy family secrets type of situation, just a really good one. I would definitely recommend that. I'm going to explore more books of hers because I liked it so much. Okay, the next one. Okay, I don't know if this is a me thing, so don't like not read a book because of my opinion on this one, because I have seen other people post that they liked this book. So this one was Anxious People by FREDRIK BACKMAN. I give this like a 1.5 out of 5. On Goodreads, it was a 2.5, a 2 out of 5. You can't like do half grades there, but I would say like 1.5 out of 5. I just thought that the writing style was bizarre. I don't know what he was trying to do. There were some chapters that were literally like one line, and it was just weird. It was just a weird setup. And I kind of think I get what he was trying to do by the end, but for me it was just waste of time. Also, they were mentioning different currencies, so I have a feeling this might have been written somewhere outside of the United States, so it could be just as an American reading this book, I didn't understand it, and maybe another, you know, area would get it. I just didn't jive with it. The next one was yet another thriller. This one was so good. This was just like a typical thriller, like grabs you, holds on to you. This was Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier, and I'll put this up on the screen. So this one I gave technically a 4.75 out of 5. This one had so many twists and turns and connections, and then once you think that you figured it out, she throws you on another curveball, but it's not over the top. It's not like there's too many that it just gets irritating. It's like the perfect balance. The main character is super relatable. You completely understand what she's going through, and I felt like her response to the situation was not overdone. So I loved that. There were some villains that were in the story that I even felt like empathy towards, so I love when an author can pull that off, because seriously, that's not easy. And I found a way to connect with those villains even though they were villains. It was just like almost perfectly done thriller. Like, it was really good. There was a couple spots that were kind of like unnecessary. That's the only reason why I didn't give it a full 5, but overall it was a really good thriller. That one makes me want to read more from her because that was the first time I read it. Okay, so the next one was The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez, and this is the #1 in the series, which I thought other books were #1 in the series, but no, I was wrong. The Friend Zone is the first one. I'm officially in love with her, so this one I gave a 4 out of 5. Her writing is just so special. She brings in like really heavy topics, but she keeps it like in a lighthearted and like inspirational way. And then she also has such good witty banter between like the two main characters. So I'm just obsessed with her. The main issue that's happening in this novel is a little repetitive. She keeps bringing it up over and over and over again without like resolving it between the two. So it's like, it just got a little tiresome at some point. It just pulled at my heartstrings, and if you read it and you know my story, you might know why. But I'm just upset that I only have, like, actually now, because I have another one of hers in my pile, I've officially read all of her published work at this point. So if you ever see Abby Jimenez anywhere, just grab it because she's so good. And then that Friend Zone series, I read it completely out of order. I started at #3, then I did #2, then I did #1. Or maybe there's even 4 in that one, I can't remember, but I went backwards on accident. #1, I already knew what was going to happen by the end because I read #2, but the other ones in the series, it's not that big of a deal if you read out of order, and honestly it didn't make that big of a difference that I knew it happened. But if you want to read in order, you can. The next one, another rom-com, was The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Okay, so let me just say this. I have mentioned this in other videos, and I'm like the type that if there's hype around a book, or hype around anything really, food, books, makeup, whatever, I like steer clear from it. I hate hype, and I don't know why. Probably because like the expectation is so high, and then I feel like I'm gonna be let down. But I've been finding lately that if there's a hype around a book, it's usually for a good reason. And The Love Hypothesis had so much hype around it, and I was like, really, like, how good could a rom-com really be, you know? Good. It can be really good. This one I gave a 4.5 out of 5. It was cheesy for sure, and it was like lighthearted type of romance novel, but you just walk away feeling so good. You just walk away like in love with the characters. I just really loved their dynamic together. I loved them as individuals. I love that it seemed like a genuine person that you could meet. It's like science-based people basically, and I just feel like they weren't overly dorky, because I feel like when you read stuff about science people, they turn them into like these massive nerds, and are there nerds out there? Of course, but it's like always overdone. This one was like, they're people that you would actually meet in real life, so they felt like really genuine and real. I really liked the friendships that were in the book too, and like the level of selflessness that people had towards each other. I felt like that was super genuine and real. There wasn't like this friendship drama that wouldn't actually happen. So this one had fake relationship, friends to lovers, and like a grouchy man and a bubbly girl, which like those are like my 3 favorite tropes, if you will. So it was just perfectly done. Like it was just perfect. Well, not perfect, because I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 because come on, it's like a cheesy rom-com, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, so the next one, another 4.5 out of 5, but this one was a thriller, and this one was The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell, and I have not been that impressed by Lisa Jewell. I know a lot of people are like die hard for her, and I do enjoy her novels, but I just always feel that there's something missing with them. But this one was finally like, yes, this is a thriller, this is really good. I like literally flew through this one because I had to know how it played out, and there was no way I could have guessed what happened. Like I kind of knew who was going to be involved, like the whodunit part, I kind of guessed that part, but how it played out was like a total twister. Like it was crazy. It was complete chaos, and you're just like, my mouth was open most of the time, every time like a twist and turn came. The characters I didn't connect with as much, which I find is very common with thrillers. I just wish I could find a thriller where I like super connect with the characters and it's a really good thriller. But like, I don't know, something about thrillers, like I feel like they write the characters so like whiny, you know? But anyway, so I didn't fully connect with the characters, but the twists and turns and the connections and the style of how it was written, because it's like kind of, it's one of those like dual timeline situations, and it was just really, it was a really great thriller, so I would definitely recommend that. Okay, so the next one is another rom-com, and this one is If the Shoe Fits, and it's part of the Meant to Be series, And what's cool with this series is it's actually, I think, there's only 2 books so far, and each of the books are written by a different author, which I think is really cool. So I'm guessing that's what they're going to be doing, and it's loosely based on Disney stories. So If the Shoe Fits, I bet you can guess, is a Cinderella type story, which I was like, when I saw it, the only reason I even got it was because my library had the second book in the series. So I was like, oh, let me read the first one, you know, because I don't want to mess anything up. But it turns out they're completely standalone, so you don't have to worry about that. But anyways, this one I gave a 4.75 out of 5. Like I said, or like I was about to say before I sidetracked myself, I saw that it was going to be like a Cinderella book, and I was like, that is so overdone. You know, there's so many like Cinderella themed books, movies, and all this stuff. So I was like, you can probably hear Oliver in the background. I'm very sorry. John is with him. I'm not allowing him to scream without attention. You know, my husband is with him. Okay, so anyways, I saw that it was a Cinderella story, retelling, if you will. Kind of rolled my eyes about it, and I was like, meh. But I'm so glad that I pressed on, because it was a really like fresh and new way of telling Cinderella. And it was cool because I've actually never read a book where, and I know this is like a common trope that's out there, but I haven't read any of like the dating show type books. So this one was like a dating show, plus it had a Cinderella element, but they ended up making all of the characters just very fresh. It was a fresh spin on Cinderella. It was done really well. It was lighthearted. It was fun. It had like the main character was like a plus size person, and so that was just awesome. Like I just really enjoyed just the whole thing. Just the whole thing was so good. And I gave it a 4.75 out of 5. I don't know if I said that already. I just loved all of the characters, like every single character I was in love with. And then also they like named different people names after Cinderella, you know, so that was really cute. And the main character, our plus size queen, she was just bold. She was fearless. It was just done so well. So anyways, that was a really good one. I would definitely recommend reading that. The next one, oh my God, I was so, okay, so this is again, another situation where this has been hyped up like crazy, so I've been avoiding reading it, but then it came up on my like skip the line on my Libby app, so I ended up picking it up. This was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one I gave a solid 5 out of 5, like no question in my mind. This book was just captivating, like right from the start. It was just magical. The characters were so special, and I felt like it was paced really well, and she gave like the right real estate to the right people in the book. So it was like the chapters, because you know from the title it's about the 7 husbands of Evelyn Hugo, so there's 7 different husbands, and I felt like the amount of space and time she gave to each of the husbands was done really, really well. And there's basically 2 main female characters. One is a journalist, and then one is Evelyn Hugo, and both of them were just phenomenal. And the entire time, you know, there's going to be a connection at the end, and I didn't see it coming at all, but I just think it was handled really well. And there was like an overall theme of like forgiveness and love, and it was just very unique. It was just such a good book, worth the hype 100%, and I would recommend. I actually purchased it because I like it so much, I want to have it in my collection. Okay, the next one is a funny one. This was like an oopsie on my part, because this one was Black Widows by Kate Quinn, but Kate has a C. I had been seeing people post Kate Quinn with a K, Kate with a K, so I was like, oh, let me pick up her book, but it turns out I picked up the wrong Kate Quinn. So this one was Black Widows by Kate Quinn, and totally an accident, but it ended up being like a really good like thriller. And it's based on the Latter-day Saints, and I have always had respect for that group of Latter-day, I don't know how, their religion, I guess. And I really think that the author had best intentions when it came to how she presented the church, but I feel like people that read it that maybe don't, and I'm not a Latter-day Saint, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm, you know, pushing any particular religion, but I don't know if people reading it might make generalizations based on the way it's presented without actually knowing about the church. So that part I didn't love. So I gave a 4 out of 5 just because of that part. But the story itself, if you can just make sure you're reading it with a grain of salt and knowing that not every single member of the Latter-day Saints acts the way some of the characters do, I feel like it's such a good book. So if you read it with a grain of salt, it's so worth it. At the very beginning of the book, I couldn't stand a single character, and I barely cared what happened to them, but the mystery was really good. But then by the end of the book, I was like obsessed with the main characters. So I really thought the author did such an amazing job at like developing them and like giving them strength and getting me all the way to the end of the book by holding me on that mystery and then revealing the characters in their true form. I thought that was phenomenal. It was definitely a slower read, so it's not like you can't put it down. It wasn't like super gripping or anything, but it was just totally worth a read. There was a lot of trigger warnings on there though. There's a lot of heavy topics, so just proceed with caution. Okay, so the next one, and I might butcher this name, is the Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Please forgive me. This book was spicy, okay? It was a Pretty Woman type retelling, but it was like a reversal, and I really enjoyed the reversal element. There was also some like complex topics that were weaved in, and there was definitely some repetition, so I don't know if I said it, but I gave it a 4 out of 5 only because of the repetition. Like the male character, there was kind of a lot of repeating situations that he was going through, so it kind of got like, blah. But the characters and the journey that they went on together and separately was really awesome. I especially loved the female lead. I really loved their families. The families were just all adorable. So such a good rom-com, but it was very spicy. So if you're not into like the spicier rom-coms, then you might want to stay away from that one. Okay, the next one was The Tourist Attraction, and this is the first of the series for Moose Springs is what it's called, or Moose Springs, Alaska is the series. This is by Sarah Morgenthaler. We're just coming at me with these names now. I don't know. This one, I gave a 4 out of 5. Also, it might even be like a 3.5, but because it was set in Alaska and it was just like super dreamy and like a Christmassy type situation, I've read another one by it, and I think the other one was Christmas, but this one wasn't. Like I read another one in the series, which we'll talk about after. Maybe this one wasn't Christmassy. But anyways, basically because it's set in Alaska, it's probably getting a higher score, but I felt like she detailed like the town and the people and the scenery just super, super well, so that's why it's got a high score. Okay, the only beef that I have is that she uses like a lot of nicknames that I feel like in any normal relationship, especially like a budding relationship, probably wouldn't get used in the excessive amount that she used the nicknames. But I really liked the chemistry between the two. The plot was just really nothing much. Like there wasn't really a trope to it. It was just kind of like it's called The Tourist Attraction. A tourist comes to town and like meets a guy. And so that was pretty much it. It wasn't like friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, any of that fake dating, nothing like that. It was just a good old, we meet each other, we like each other type situation. I really want a vacation with all of the characters, so that's that. Okay, the next one, and I have it in front of me, was The Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I was super pumped about this one because I actually took a wild chance and I pre-ordered this one on Amazon, so I got it on the release date, and I think I read it like maybe a week after, so it's kind of pointless for me to get it on the release date. But so this one is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. It's her most recent book. She wrote People We Meet on Vacation, which is another favorite of mine, and then she also wrote Beach Read, which I read after the fact as well. This one I gave a 5 out of 5. If you're like in any type of a reading rut and you want to get back into reading, this is the book for you, okay? Somehow simultaneously, I wanted to live in a small town in North Carolina and also New York City, which I am not in any way interested in living in New York City. A small town in North Carolina, yes, of course. But for some reason, this author made me want to live in both places. She just did such a good job at really like making you feel like you were in both locations when you were in the location in the book. And the characters were just so phenomenal. There was like a sister connection that was happening in addition to a romance that was happening. And the characters, what I love about her is she writes flawed characters. They're not like perfect, and they're like the actual type of people you would meet. So I love that she did that, and I love that her characters like owned who they were in the book, and they weren't trying to apologize for the choices that they've made to bring them where they are. It was just it was so good. And I felt like the storyline really pushed back against the typical storyline that you usually get in like a romance novel. She's just a special author. So if you haven't read this one, read it. That one will take you back to joy of reading if you ever had one. Okay, the next one was Local Woman Missing by Mary KUBICA. Okay, for this one, I am so glad that I read it during the day. I don't know if I said the score, but it was a 4.5 out of 5. This is like a really, really, really dark and creepy thriller, like the type where when the author details like the scenes and stuff, it's just all really dark and creepy. And it's the connections, you think you know where the connections are going, and then they take a completely right turn. I only had a feeling as to what was happening because there was characters introduced that I felt like, why are they here if they're not part of the ending? You know what I mean? So like that kind of clued me in, but the way that it played out was just so well done. It was like a roller coaster ride because like you literally think it's going one way and then it goes another way and then it goes back the other way and then you're like doing a loop upside down. This was like the perfect balance of there's enough characters to throw you off course, and those are my favorite thrillers. Like some of them like overwhelm you with characters, some of them only have a few, so you kind of have an idea, but this one was like a perfect balance. So that is like, if you want a good thriller, that is one that I would recommend. Okay, so this next one is Duke Actually by Jenny Holiday, and this one I gave a 3.75 out of 5. So this one, I really loved the characters. They were super endearing, and again, like like I was saying with Emily Henry, this author had no problem like making her characters flawed, and they owned it, and it wasn't like an apology for who they are. The plot was super, super typical, but it was like slower paced, so I enjoyed that part because it was one of those situations where there was like two that kind of had like a banter going about them. And normally like it's like I get like 3.5 chapters and then they're like attacking each other. That's not how this book was done. They're like, they go from like having a banter to like becoming friends and then like getting into like the whole we're falling in love with each other thing. And that's not a spoiler because hi, it's a rom-com, obviously that's gonna happen. But I felt like she paced it very differently from other people, so I enjoyed that part. It's supposed to be like a holiday. It's not supposed to be a holiday, or maybe it's supposed to be, but there's definitely Christmas elements in it. And so I really liked that because it was like a super cozy read. Like, but I read it in May, but it didn't matter. So that's a recommend for me. The next one was in that series, the Meant to Be series. This one's by the book, and this one was by Jasmine Guillory. And this one I gave it a 4 out of 5. This one is based on Beauty and the Beast, which is my favorite Disney movie, possibly one of my favorite movies, period. So I have a high bar for this, but it didn't disappoint. It was super cheesy, like way more cheesy than the first book. But I just felt like the Beauty and the Beast story is really hard to tell without it being like a magical element, and the fact that she was able to figure it out, because like seriously, like how are you gonna trap somebody in your castle, you know what I mean? But the way she pulled it off is like really good. The characters were like super great, and I really loved their depth and like how they grew in the novel. Okay, so the next one, another rom-com. Listen, I've been in a rom-com mood lately because I just feel like it's summer, and like thrillers to me are like October weather, you know? But right now, like all I want is rom-coms at all times. So this one was The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armes, maybe? This one I give a 4 out of 5. I was a little bit worried at the beginning, and that's the only reason why I didn't get a 5 out of 5 was because of the beginning. Like the first like maybe 4 chapters, it's an enemies to lovers book, which I love enemies to lovers. But they were like a little over the top with the hatred at the beginning, and it was supposed to be like they work in a corporate office together and they're both like team leaders. And I'm like, I've worked in corporate offices before, and I would never be able to talk to my fellow workers the way that they talk to each other. So it was a little over the top. It was like juvenile almost at the beginning. But then it like really warmed up, and then I really started enjoying it. It was definitely like a cheesy situation, but the backstories of both of the characters and why they got to where they are in the situation is really, really good. And also it was cool because Spanish is like weaved into the story, so it was fun being able to read that. Sometimes they would explain what the Spanish was and sometimes they didn't. So I found myself like going on to translate it, which was really cool. It also felt like more genuine and unique because I felt like that would probably be how she would be speaking in an everyday situation. So it felt like it gave more like honesty to the character. The next one I read because my library had it, and I used to be obsessed with V.C. Andrews, and if you've never read V.C. Andrews, it's like dark and twisted, so don't judge me, but I used to be like obsessed with V.C. Andrews when I was like a teenager, which really I shouldn't have been reading it at that age. But this one was The Mirror Sisters by V.C. Andrews. My library didn't have a lot to go with the V.C. Andrews selection, so I had to get this one, and it was a complete letdown. It was the type of book that was so clearly stretched out just so they can make money off of a series, and it just irritated me because I'm like, it ends on a major cliffhanger and you want to go find out what happened, but I don't want to sit through another one of those books. So I'm just going to have to accept that I'm not going to know what's going to happen because there's too many good books out there to read right now. I don't have time to waste my time on crap, you know, and it was absolute crap. So I don't know if it's the ghostwriter and not actual V.C. Andrews, because I don't know if V.C. Andrews passed away or just retired, but I know they have a ghostwriter for her. Okay, so the next one is a series, and I'm just going to give a 4 out of 5 to the entire series, with the exception of one of the books. So this was the Winter Street series by Elin Hilderbrand. The final book in the series, let me just give you the names of each of them. So first one is Winter Street, the next one is Winter Stroll, the next one is Winter Storms, and the final one is Winter Solstice. Winter Solstice, I gave a 5 out of 5. So book 1 gave a 4 out of 5. Could not put it down, which led to me not being able to put the entire series down, which was not completely necessary because the way they end it is on a cliffhanger, but it's not one of those that like you have to race out and get the next book. But I just wanted to know what happened. It was really messy and complicated. It was like such a good family drama situation. It was so entertaining, and you really enjoy the characters with the exception of I did not like the daughter. She was like really annoying and like really juvenile, and she was just driving me a little crazy, but the rest of the characters were just like so wonderful, and they had like a really good modern family situation happening, which I loved. The second one, it wraps up book 1, and what I expected to happen did not happen, but I ended up liking the alternative that she came up with, so that's good. The daughter was still annoying me, but I enjoyed everybody else. And then it was just really heartwarming to read how they work through their problems as like a modern family, because there's a lot of complicated stuff going on. Book 3, Winter Storms, it was a nice quick read, and it brought a little bit more of what you need to know into it. It was like big, messy, complicated families happening again, and it was just like joyful. It was just a joyful read. It was nice and quick. It definitely wasn't as strong as the first ones, but it was a quicker read. Now the fourth one apparently was not supposed to happen, but people were so obsessed with the series that she came out with a fourth one, and thank God she did, because it was the best one that there was out of the whole series. The thing with Elin Hilderbrand is when you go into it, you have to expect that it's going to be a bittersweet ending, which is exactly what happened. So when she wraps it up, it's not completely neat, and it's not going to be like a perfect scenario, but that's why I enjoy it, because it feels more real. I was sobbing by the end of this book because like I felt like I had spent so much time at Christmas with this family. I felt like I was part of the family. So like I had spent like a full 2 days with them. They were my family, you know? And so at the end I was like sobbing reading what was happening to them. So definitely recommend that series. I recommend most Elin Hilderbrand actually. So I think there was one that I read that I hated, but The Golden Girl, I didn't like that one. But the other ones from her I've read, I love. Okay, so the next one is Wish You Were Here by Jodi Picoult. I don't know if I said that right. Okay, if you have any type of burnout from the last few years or a couple years with what's happening, if I use the word I'll probably get blocked or whatever, but you know, the illness that's going around, if you have any type of like burnout from that, I wouldn't read this book, because it's about it's happening as like March 2020. It's happening then, and it was a little bit difficult because I was like, you know, reliving the beginning terror stages of the situation, but it was a really good concept for the book. And in the beginning, you're dropped into the Galapagos Islands. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it was just like dreaming. Like I felt like I was literally on vacation, and then the author like yanks you out of there, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like I didn't feel like I had processed, you know, my emotions yet. So like I have mixed emotions about it because it was like a well done book, but the ending leaves you really, not, I won't say confused, but it was like an open ending. And you guys probably know from my reviews, I don't enjoy when people do that. So, but I did give it a 4 out of 5 because it was a really good, there was a good twist in that book. So, okay, next one. Abby Jimenez came out with Part of Your World. This is not part of a series, but there is like some of her characters from the other books are like in the background on this, which I love that she does that. So this I gave a 5 out of 5. She's like officially on my You Can't Be Let Down by Her list. It's like her and Kristen Hanna and maybe like Emily Henry at this point. They're my list right now. I just feel like she keeps getting better and better, which is like amazing because the other books that she has is so good. This story was like just really, really well done. It was like an impossible love type situation. Like there were, well, it wasn't impossible, but there was major barriers between the two main characters, and she had very creative solutions. It wasn't like unbelievable or anything, and the creative solutions she came up with were just like super inspiring. She again does the thing where she has like very complicated and heavy situations weaved into the story, but you don't walk away feeling like it was heavy. You walk away feeling like inspired, and it's just, I just loved it. And then like I took the time at the end. I don't always do this with books because I'm too excited to race to the next one, to read her Q&A, and she explained even more depth to the characters that I hadn't even picked up on. So I'm so glad that I read the Q&A because it just like made me love the characters even more and made me love her even more because I didn't even realize what she was doing. So that's that. Okay, next one was Beach Read by Emily Henry. This one I gave a 4.5 out of 5. It's not really the book's fault that it didn't get a full 5. It's just because her other books had such a high standard that it was hard for this to live up, because I read Book Lovers before I read this. I wish that I had read this first because it would probably have gotten a 5 out of 5. This was such a delightful read, and I did not want to put it down. Like I had started reading it, and I was actually reading another book at the same time. I don't remember what it was, but like I literally abandoned that book once I started reading this one because I just loved it so much. I really like how she strays away from the basic romances, and she like adds depth to the situation. The two main characters really had like a lot of drama happening, and she does like a really good job at like taking them through it, and it just feels really real. And the two main characters in this are actually authors, and they're writing books in this book, and they kind of like give you like snippets of what's going on in the book, and I want to read both of those books. So like she needs to make that happen. The only thing that I have a problem with is like when I was looking at this cover and the title Beach Read, I was kind of expecting it to be like on a tropical island or something, but it ends up being at like a lake in Michigan, which they of course have beaches there, but it just didn't give me beach vibes. Like I just felt like it was more like a lake vibe. So it was weird that it was called Beach Read, which that's a very weird comment to make, but what am I, you know, I'm here to talk about what I felt, you know? Okay, the next one was Not a Happy Family by Shari LaPena. I don't know if I pronounced that correct. She doesn't have like a tilde over the end, so I'm guessing I said it right. This one I give a 4 out of 5. This one was a super fun read. It was like a thriller with like lots of like family secrets, lies, backstabbing, and it hooks you like right from the beginning. I really, really liked it. There was only one character that I liked in the book. Everybody else I couldn't stand, but again, she did a good job at like having enough characters to keep you guessing. The only thing I didn't like about this book, and the reason why I didn't give it a full 5, is because there was a lot of build-up for the ending, and then I felt like the ending was just like a chapter and then you're done. And it was just kind of like, we're not going to explain that a little bit more. It just felt like it was a lot of build-up and then just like an abrupt ending. There was a little bit of an open-ended situation at the end, and I did like how that was kind of, it was up for your own conclusion, but it wasn't like done in an annoying way. But this is a definite good read. Like if you're looking for a thriller, that's a good one. Okay, this one was The Therapist by B.A. Paris. This one I gave a 3.5 out of 5, and this one, it didn't hook me from the beginning. It was like very slow starting, but by the middle of the book, I was literally like racing to get to the end. I had so many guesses on where it was going, but where it ended up, it took me completely by surprise. Like completely by surprise. I had like no, which is weird because I'm usually pretty good at picking up on clues and stuff like that, but it was like completely out of left field. Also, I really enjoyed how once we got to the end, the author actually like walks you through all the stuff you missed leading up to it, and I really like enjoyed that. Okay, so the next one was Mistletoe and Mr. Right, and this was part of that Moose Springs, Alaska series by Sarah Morgenthaler. This one I gave a 3 out of 5. This is the one that I was reading when I started this, and then I went to this because this one I actually ended up starting before Beach Read, and then I read 2 other books because I just wasn't that like drawn to the Mistletoe and Mr. Right. I really loved the characters because they're the characters from the first one, but they focus on a different set of characters. The conflict was really good, but the execution was just not there. Also, the nicknames thing was an issue again because like the dude in the book, he's using like sweetheart and gorgeous like over like he's kind of got like that grouchy vibe to him, yet somehow calling everybody sweetheart and gorgeous. And I was like, if you're really a grouch, you're not doing that. Unless you're doing it in like a condescending way, and he wasn't. He was doing it like a pet name type of way, and I just thought it was kind of weird. But if you need to like break up a heavier read, it was like a nice, and it was holiday set, so it was like a nice little Christmas book. I wouldn't say not read it, but I don't know. It's not like you need to run out and read it right now. But what you do need to run out and read is this next one, which is Winter Garden by Kristen Hanna. Listen, Kristen Hanna, 5 out of 5, first of all. Like, pretty much, I don't ever think that there's going to be a Kristen Hanna that I read that I don't give a 5 out of 5. I was sobbing, and I turned to my husband, and I said, I feel like my organs were just, like, taken out of my body one by one and then put back in. The first half of the book, I was literally like, this is not Kristen Hanna. Like, did someone else write this? This is not Kristen Hanna. Because it was super slow and it was hard to connect with the characters, and that's not the normal writing style I expect from her. But by the end, she like takes you like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, she just takes you somewhere, and then you understand why she did it so slow and why it was so hard to connect with the characters at the beginning. It was like all meant to be. At least that's how I interpreted it while I was reading it. The story was so powerful, and it was a mother-daughter situation and also a sister situation, but it was a completely different dynamic than her other books. It's just so good. Just so good. So like, if you're thinking about reading Kristen Hanna, this is my recommendation for the order that you read them. First one I would go with is Four Winds. Then I would read The Great Alone. Then I would read Nightingale, and then I would read Winter Garden. Those are the only 4 that I've read from her so far. But that's the order that I would read it in, because to me, I think the strongest book from her is probably The Nightingale. Four Winds, very close second though, so I think starting with Four Winds is good. The Great Alone, I think you have to appreciate her to appreciate that book, so I wouldn't start with Great Alone because you might not fully appreciate it. And then The Nightingale is just so strong, and then Winter Garden is almost as strong as Nightingale to me, but they're all solid reads. Okay, the next one was The 12 Dates of Christmas by Jenny Bayliss, and this one I gave a 3 out of 5. This one was super cute, super predictable. I really needed this book after the Winter Garden because that one took me through it. For me, this one, I felt like she really like embodied the Christmas spirit when she was writing. It just felt like it jumped off the pages. And I really felt like I was in like the small town in England, like walking on like cobblestone streets. The main guy, like love interest, was kind of a jerk, and I didn't really appreciate the way he acted in a lot of situations, and I felt like it just was like unexcused. I don't even know how to explain, or it was excused, I should say. Like, I don't know, it was weird. But everybody else in the book was really good. It's definitely not a must read, but it definitely worked for breaking up my, thriller and heavy read situation that I had going on. Okay, Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. So Christina Lauren is a writing duo. Okay, so this one I gave a 5 out of 5. And this one is completely different from the other Christina Laurens I've read. The other ones that I've read were like lighthearted, really funny banter and things like that. This one has like a really like tormenting love story. And it's got a dual timeline, so it's like it goes back and forth between like, I think it was like 10 years before and present day, and then it kind of like walks you through the previous 10 years. I enjoy the timelines like that. But it was like a friends to lovers situation, but like I said, there's like a tragic element to it, so it's like you're kind of tormented along with the characters. But the way it's all explained by the end was like done really, really well. I was shocked because I really thought I was about to read like a lighthearted rom-com, but it ended up being like a true like love story. So it was really good. The next one was another freaking 5 out of 5. Like I was hitting the jackpot with books for a little while. This one was The Winemaker's Wife by Kristen Harmel, which I've never even heard of this book or this person. My friend just happened to have seen it on the library app in the Skip the Line area. And so when she finished, she told me, and then I grabbed it. So this one was a historical fiction, and again, it was a World War II historical fiction, which is like my favorite, and it highlights an area in France that I had no idea. Like obviously I needed to study history a little bit better. I had no idea that France was impacted the way they were, and so it's a really good eye-opening experience to see how many people were affected during World War II. This book was just so powerful, and the characters and the secrets that get uncovered and the way the story twists and turns is just phenomenal. It's one of those dual timelines again where it's like a granddaughter is learning about her grandmother and her entire story through World War II. It was just phenomenal. It was completely heartbreaking what they went through and the way the character felt at the end, the grandmother, but it was so worth reading. Like it was just so good. It was a really good book. It was like Kristen Hanna level. It was really good. So I actually have another book in my to be read from the same author because I'm intrigued to see what else she's got. Okay, next one was 28 Summers by Elin Hilderbrand, and this, to me, I haven't read all of, she has like, I don't know, 28 books or something. She has a lot of books out there. I don't know how many. I think she said it in here somewhere. Okay, this is her 25th novel. I've read like 6. So, but I will say of the 6 that I've read, this is the best one yet. If you're an Elin Hilderbrand fan and you know of one that's better than this one, please leave it in the comment below because I want to read it. This was so good. The thing, like I said before about her, is that you always have to expect that it's going to be bittersweet. In this one, you know what's going to be the ending, like the whole time. But I was just so intrigued at the love story. It was just done so well. It's like she breaks your hearts and lifts your spirits at the same time. The characters were so special. And then like what I love about her is that she makes you feel like you're in Nantucket, like walking on the beach and reading this. You probably shouldn't walk and read at the same time. Maybe you're sitting on the beach listening to the waves come in and you're reading it. It's just so good. And it's a really good summer read. But I wouldn't read it in public because I was like hysterically crying. But maybe like you have your life together. But I was hysterically crying by the end. 2 more to go, guys. We're almost there. Okay, so the next one. Oh, and did I say this was a 5 out of 5? 5 out of 5 for me. I don't know if I mentioned that. Winemaker's Wife, also a 5 out of 5. The next one was Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. This one was a 4 out of 5 for me. It was a really quick read. Like I really got through it super fast. I think that I literally read it within like 3 or 4 hours. So it was like a really good, well-paced thriller. I figured out the ending like a third of the way through, so it wasn't like super like groundbreaking or anything, but it was like really dark and the characters were really unique. I really liked the characters. If you're into like true crime and cold cases, this is the book for you because it was like that was the type of vibe that was happening. So just overall really well done. And then last but not least for my May reads, I had Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey, and this was part of the Hot and Hammered series. This one was a 3.5 out of 5 for me. It was pretty cringy and super basic. Like, it was really, really basic. So it was basically a friends to lover situation, and there was like a sunshiny girl and a grumpy dude, which, like, those are two of my favorite tropes, if you will. But then, like, they ended up, like, tossing in a really, like, awkward fake dating scenario that I felt was completely necessary, so that was a little difficult for me. Also, Georgie, who's the main girl character, I was, like, really in love with her, but I also felt like they're making her, like, she's supposed to be 23 in the book, but when you read it, she's more of, like, a 19. Like, I had a hard time believing she was 23. And then there's, like, major spice in this book. This is a very spicy book. Like, Tessa Bailey with the spice factor is like, woo! But I don't love the spice scenes in this one because she, like, turns them into different people. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I didn't love that part, but it was a really entertaining book, and I didn't want to put it down. Like, I just kept going back to it over and over again. So, but if you're not into the spicy novels, Tessa Bailey I don't think is for you, because her spice level is pretty high. So those are all the books that I read in the month of May, so thank you for getting through that. And then let's talk about the books that I am going to read in the month of June. So first off, let's just start with my library reads that I have in my queue here. So the first one is, I have that Kristen Harmel. I have another book of hers called The Forest of Vanishing Stars. Like I've probably told you guys in the past, I don't even read summaries or anything like that most of the time. It's just if the cover looks good or if somebody recommends it, I put it in my queue. Or if it's like an author that I've already read, then I just like go for it. What I'm currently reading right now is Jasmine Guillory, Party of Two. It's a like for me. Just, I haven't got all the way through it, but it's a like. And then Tessa Bailey, the Hot and Hammered series. There's Tools of Engagement and Love Her or Lose Her. So I put both of those in my library queue because I want to see what happens to the other characters in that series. I got Rebecca Searle in 5 Years. Somebody posted that that's like a must read, so I'm excited about that. And then Catherine Center, What You Wish For. I read another book by Catherine Center before and I was like blown away by it, so I'm excited for that. And then I have a nice little library pile over here. So let's see what we got in that. Oops. And then I wanted to tell you guys too, I also have a couple of Kindle Unlimited books. So the other ones that I have is The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose, Things We Never Got Over by Lucy something or other. Lucy Score. And that's it. Those are the two books that I have on Kindle Unlimited. Okay, so from the library, this is due back by June 14th, so I need to get it together because today's June 2nd. Jenny Colgan, The Christmas Bookshop. I just love Christmas books. I don't care what time of year it is. I just love them. The next one, Nicholas Sparks, The Wish. I heard this was really good, so I haven't read Nicholas Sparks in probably like 10 years, so I'm really excited about that. The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, and November 9 by Colleen Hoover. And then I think that I have a couple upcoming on my library that's not like in my queue, but they're like almost available. So I have Black Girls Must Die Exhausted by Jane Allen, Yellow Wife by Sadiqa Johnson. I don't know if I said that correctly. I also have How to Walk Away by Catherine Center, The Royal We by Heather Cox, Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey Mickiston. I don't know if I said that right. So those are the other 5 that I have. They're in my queue, but I don't know if they're going to come out on time. And then I also have, we got a lot going on, guys. Okay, we have a lot of reading to do. I also have my book of the month coming. And what did I order? The book of the month selection, I'm going to leave my link down below in case you want to sign up for the book of the month, because I think if someone refers you, you get like your first month is only $5 instead of whatever it is, like $15.99 I think. So if you're interested in signing up for the book of the month, they usually give you like 5 to 7 selections. You can pick a book. It's a hardcover book. So this was my book of the month for May. And you can see it's a hardcover and it's really nice. It's got like their own custom wrap on it. you get a pick, and then also you can add books on to it, and when you add on the books, they're only like $10.99. So it's a really good deal, because like hardcovers are like $22, you know what I mean? So for this month, they didn't have like that large of a selection, but they had a Jennifer Hillier, which is the girl that I read earlier in this month. I think it was called Little Secrets, and it was like it was a really good book. I think I gave it a 5 out of 5 or something around there. So she had one on there this month called Things We Do in the Dark, and it's like a pre-sale, it said. So it's like a newer book. I also purchased the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, so I could own that because it was so good. And then I got Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis because somebody posted it was really good. So I did those 2 as like my add-on. So again, I'll leave my referral code in the bottom. I get a credit if you use my link. So if you like me, you know, do that for me. But also if you like yourself, because the first month is only $5. So you might as well just get a book for $5. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so that's everything, guys. That's everything we're reading in the month of June. That's everything we've read in the month of May. If you have recommendations, I like historical fiction. Right now I'm on a total like rom-com kick. I love like Enemies to Lovers is my favorite. So if you have a good one that I haven't mentioned, leave it down below. And I do enjoy thrillers, but like right now, I just want like lighthearted fun, you know? So like historical fiction and thrillers are probably gonna take a back seat right now because I just want to read some really like lighthearted fun. I wanna like sit at my pool and enjoy my life, you know? So that is it. I'm gonna stop rambling. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I will talk to you all later. Bye.